There we go. We're being recorded. And so everything else will be recorded. So anyway, so this is the important part anyway, because I'm going to switch over to the camera and do some demonstrations. But I did want to say that on Zoom, I have a on Patreon, excuse me, I have a $20 level for classes. And $20 used to be people came to this coffee shop locally and we did a project. Well, we still have that, but it's on Zoom. But now it's recorded, so you can go back and watch it all month long as you're working on your piece. I also send out update videos. We also have a afternoon critique, which you can send work in, and even if you can't be there, can record it. You can watch it later. And anything else I post, like I might post myself working on my own current project, and then you get updates of that, which will have a few pointers of working on something else that you might want to work on. So you get a lot more for the $20 than just the one class like in the old days. And then I have
Lisa, can I ask you a quick question?
yeah.
Yes, Diane. When you're filming, I assume you're going to be filming some of you doing your artwork. Is that correct?
Yes.
How do you do that? How do you do the camera?
Down here in the corner where you have your camera, I have two cameras plugged in, so I can choose my camera. So right now it's on, a regular computer camera looking at me, and then I switch it over to a camera that I have on an arm over my work here.
Oh.
And this is the same camera that Bonnie Snowden and some of the other people who have been teaching for a while online use. If you want to know what it is, it's the Logitech C920. It's wonderful. It's some gamer's camera, but when we all got quarantined, Yellow Barn Studios, of which I'm on faculty, they were just about to lose everything. So they had to teach us how to go online. And they were teaching everybody to sign in with their camera on their computer or their laptop, whatever, and then sign in on their iPad or their iPhone on a tripod. And their cell phones were like burning up. They would get hot because they're doing, a 2-hour, 3-hour painting class with this iPhone. So after a while, they all started messaging me and saying, Lisa, what was that camera you said you were using? So it's the Logitech C920, and it, as you can see, it's really clear. And I just have it on autofocus, so once in a while, like if I move, it has to, but it's better on autofocus than not, I found. So anyway, my first thing, for anybody who has pencils out, I was just picking the closest to primary colors, but not too far off in value. So I have an ultramarine blue, sort of a permanent red or geranium lake red, depending what brand you're using. I have Polychromos and Prismacolors here. And then like canary yellow would be what it is in Prismacolor. And I don't know what in Faber-Castell, because they write it in metallic, and whoever does that is not appreciative of 60-year-old eyes that go, ooh, that glares at me and I can't see anything. By the way, I was telling you before about the moving something with some other material, like odorless mineral spirits. This is the rubbing alcohol. It's regular old rubbing alcohol, except it's the 91%. Or Vaseline. If you wanted to soften an edge, you could come in, I do this with my fingers all the time. You could come in with some Vaseline and get that edge to soften and move. Now you have to wait for that to dry or absorb or whatever you want to do. Alcohol, you don't have that problem because I'm dipping a brush in it. Whoops, I'm putting it on the wax. Alcohol, you don't have that problem because it evaporates really quickly, just like odorless mineral spirits. Odorless mineral spirits, for those who don't know, are a paint thinner. So they have a smell, even though they say they're odorless, but it's like gas. You could have gas in your house, and if you didn't have that smell they add to it, you wouldn't know your house was getting ready to explode because you wouldn't know there was gas there. So when you have a gas leak. So the same with odorless mineral spirits. You don't know there's a gas leak because it doesn't have a smell. The things I like to blend with are You can get these pencil tip erasers. This is a nice one from Mars makes them. This is, you know, a Faber-Castell one. And although they're supposed to erase, they don't really, but they kind of do blend. And this is a stick by Caran d'Ache of wax. It's called the Full Blender Stick. It is nothing but a stick of wax. So you know that wax oil lipid I said was inside the color pencil as a binder? This is like more of it. So it's the best thing if I wanted to blend and get my strokes. Here, let me do this. I will shade, and then I'll shade heavier, and then I'll shade lighter, and then maybe I'll put a color over here, and maybe I don't want my pencil strokes to show. I can take this stick and run over it and give it sort of a layer of wax, get things, two colors to blend together, get pencil strokes to go away. It does some fun things. So that's, you know, those are the blenders of preference as I give away all my tricks. Okay, so there is one color wheel in the world that you should have, and I couldn't find mine today. So I printed out an image. That's why it's all covered with the copyright information. But if you go buy a color wheel, do not buy any color wheel except for it's called the Painter's Compass color wheel. And it's made by this, shout out to Glenn Kessler over there in Rockville at the Compass Atelier. So if you go on the Compass Atelier's shop or Google the Painter's Compass color wheel, he sells them. He also has videos on YouTube of how to use them. But if you notice in the color wheel, rather than just going around and mixing and then having values, he says the values light or dark would be layers up and down. What happens across is when I mix this red into this green, the complementary color of red is green, it pulls the color into a muted shade to a neutral to back out until it's a pure green. And I'm going to show that in just a minute. It is the only color wheel that you would use. And then I've made blank templates of it so that when you're, and if you ever want one, I'll probably post them on Patreon. But then when I put my red in here and my yellow, and I'm just doing a little dot, and my blue, which is trying to be sort of the true blue. Now I want to make the purple in between. I'm going to do, purple was not the one to start with because purple is sometimes a pain in the neck. It gets pulled into red really quickly and it goes very dark so that you want to add white to it to get it light, but that's probably the best purple. And then I used to say with paint, we would always add the light color first and add drops of the dark color in. But with color pencil, it's kind of nice to put down the dark color and then take it right into the orange. Adding more in color pencil is just pressing harder, more pressure. So as I went along and said, I need more yellow, I start pressing down harder. When you're pressing, it's all about pressure in color pencil. When you're pressing lightly, and then when you're pressing hard, it's, you know, it's hard to show on video, but you can show it that way too. So then we have your green. Again, I'm going to start with the darker color, which is the opposite for anybody who's painted with me. My 5-year-old kids class knows to put the light color first, and now I'm breaking the rules and putting the dark color first. So there's your color wheel, just from the 3 colors. And you would wonder what good that is. There's a teacher, Ekaterina, and I would mispronounce her last name. She does, oh, there's our egg with so many colors in it for a white project. She does classes where she is teaching color pencil. I don't know if you've ever done any of hers, Diane. They're great. And she's only using these 3 colors and creating, this is about halfway through, but some areas are sort of finished up here in the kumquats. The cup and the wood would get even darker and darker, but you can really manipulate color. So if I want a red that's more muted down, more brought towards neutral, because by the way, any complementary color you mix together will make brown, or neutral. As like I said, any of my 5-year-old students will tell you because they've all painted with me before. So I can create a brown by mixing basically all three primary colors together, because red and blue make green plus red. Okay, so to pull that red down, I've got to add green. So I'm adding my yellow and my blue. I am adding them lightly. Remember, just like adding a drop, because I still want this to be red, but I want it to be a more neutral red. I don't want it to become purple. I just want it to be a shaded red, a brown down, more neutral red. Same with green. If I have yellow, blue, make green. But this is too bright, tropical of a green. I want a more olivey, toned down green. I'm getting that more green. It got a little blue on that end. Then I just add a very light touch of red, and then add light bits of red to it until I feel like, okay, it's still green, but it's a little more olivey. And you can do that with all the colors and play with them until you get that wonderful, like I could do a full drawing with only 3 colors. Where that comes into play for all of us is when I've got a color and I can't find the perfect color, it's a temptation in colored pencil to say, let me find the perfect green for here and the perfect green for there and the perfect, well, then they might be all unrelated. I've got a bunch of greens here, and you can tell these 2 greens have nothing to do with each other. One's like an aqua and one's like a light olive. Using this will not lighten this. It will not appear as a lighter version of this. Sometimes you can find it. Oh, here I have a light olive and a dark olive. But what if I just wanted to pull those colors a little bit more towards brown and I didn't have this? Amazingly enough, I can add a red in. It will be more lively than taking a brown pencil and darkening it with a brown pencil, which will just probably deaden the color. So color theory is a good thing to learn, even though we have 120 or however many different colors. And I have hundreds and hundreds of colored pencils on my desk because I have different brands, sorted by brands. Now, the next thing I wanted to show you was how you can make a masterpiece out of your coloring book picture or whatever picture you have. So this picture looks like something that may be in like a coloring book or some other project, or maybe you have a really cool photo and you're like, I really want to draw that. For some reason, I love this Cadillac Biarritz and it makes me think of an airplane taking off. In fact, when I drew it, I enlarged the wing of it. I usually put cardboard under my paper, and my cardboard that I use is the back of a notebook of paper so that I have a nice padded surface to work on. So when I'm putting this down as I can just trace it, whether it was a picture from a coloring book or whether it was a photo or whatever it was. You can do 2 things. You can take a nice soft pencil, like a nice, I had a 4B here. Oh yeah, I want to tell you all about erasers too. Erasers are a good thing to know. So anyway, you can cover the back with graphite, or you can get the graphite sheets, which are like, work like carbon paper, and then place your picture. And then I like to draw with a sort of stiff, this is one of those Col-Erase teacher pencils. Your watercolor pencils would work well. We were using a stylus for a while, and then one of my students said, oh my goodness, I'm making dents in my paper. So I said, let's go for something softer. Plus, when I outline in red, as you can see I've done, I can tell what I've traced and not. So if I've left a part out in the mechanical stuff here, I can see, oh, that doesn't have a red line on it. I need to go back. And then it will, whether you colored on the back with graphite or use the graphite transfer sheet, which also comes in white when you're working on colored paper. You can trace directly from, this is just a printout from on regular paper, so it's not very thick. And I just put it in kind of the draft mode on my printer so that I'm not wasting ink or anything, and tape everything in place with a little masking tape so that nothing shifts until you've done your whole thing, and then take it off and then start your colored pencil. And you can see in these clouds places where I may want to not only use a light pressure, but maybe use one of those alcohol wax stick, some method to keep my edges very soft. This is with the wax stick. I'm going to go over here where it's kind of rough. And I was coloring a darker part of the sky. And I'm going to rub some Vaseline into that and see how that does. So I have to use quite a bit of pressure to get
Lisa,
smooth. Yes.
could you tell us again what the name of that wax pencil is so we can find
Yes.
it online?
Yes, it is Caran d'Ache, which is CARAND'Ache. They're the ones who make the Pablo pencils and a couple other brands. The
Thank you.
Luminance pencils they make too. Anyway, Caran d'Ache, and they call it the full blender stick. And when it comes to you, it rarely comes all in one stick, because in shipping, unless Amazon put a lot of pillow packs around it, it usually breaks because it's just a stick of wax. It doesn't have any wood on it. Although it is faceted like a pencil, it's just a stick of wax. And I don't care. I break them up into pieces. So that's a good one. And then the alcohol, let's try that down here. That does a good job of softening an edge of a cloud. And watering it down, almost turning your pencil into a watercolor pencil. The reason I wouldn't just use a watercolor pencil is a watercolor pencil, although it might work well in the beginning or for a sky or something, you can't layer up, and we're going to talk about layers in a minute. You can just sort of do that one layer with them. They're a little harder. You know how the pan color pencil comes in the pan watercolor pencil comes in the tray of things, and then they return to hard. Well, what's in a watercolor pencil will return to hard. It doesn't have that soft, oily waxiness. It's like the difference between a soft pastel, which is very dry, and an oil pastel that's oily. And also sometimes those two you can't mix, and sometimes you might have a little trouble mixing. If I did a watercolor pencil on top of a waxy pencil, it would just scrape at it. So I had started this car in our class last month, and I didn't get so far because I've been doing 6 or 8 other different drawings. But just for a simple project, I'm going to begin shading, which, by the way, even though we want our pencil strokes to disappear at some point, it's a good idea to start them off going the direction of whatever it is you're shading. So I'm shading in the direction of my rose. I find that rose petals really have a grain to them, almost like a piece of fabric. You know, the threads are going a certain direction. Well, so do petals, because like a leaf, they actually have little tiny veins in them. And so they have a definite direction to them. And you want to keep them soft. If you're working on white paper, and we'll talk about surfaces in a while, in the beginning, you want to leave anything white that you want to remain white later on. So even if I wanted a white highlight here, in the beginning, I would leave it as the white of the paper. And then later on, I could bring a white pencil into it. Once you've added white pencil, you've kind of put down the pledge on the tabletop, and it'll start attracting all the dust in the room. So I have a white pencil here, and you'll see once I put it in, it helps like that stick of wax to blend. but it will also pick up the crumbs that come up from all of your other colors. When you use heavy pressure, you get some crumbs, and you will want to keep your whites clean, so you end up having to clean them up over and over. Behind me, the girl with the butterfly, the whole side of, when I showed my other camera again, the whole side of her face is white. And I went over that white every day when I was working, because all the other yellow and purple and everything else got into it. So a very simple thing, and I can post to you too, this little rose, if you wanted to draw it. It's a nice one. And you notice if you keep your lines very light, or you transferred them with pencil, you could come back later and erase them away, and so that even a coloring book picture could become something that's of your own creation, because you've transferred it, you've erased away the lines, now it's all just color pencil. Or if they're very light like this, a lot of times we can color deep enough. Whoop, that was a lot of pressure. You can color dark enough that that we won't see the lines anymore, because they're just a light gray. And as I go, I'll get deeper and deeper. So I'm going down into this hollow on the rose, and I may say, I want that to be a little more shadowy and not so bright red down in there. Remember what I said, I can come back with my, I'm going to use my sharpener, it'll be loud. I can come back with my green and get that red to be still a strong red, didn't change the value at all, but I muted it a bit by adding that green in there. So just like you do with your paints, using your colors to mute each other, a good knowledge of what the complementary color is will make something really come out beautiful. And the more layers you do, the smoother it gets, the less we see. You know, everybody wants to have that perfect tool that gets rid of the pencil strokes and everything. I'm very old school. I started color penciling in 1980 when I was in art school. Been doing it for, you know, then 40 years, and didn't know what other color pencil artists were doing in the world until my oldest became a teenager and I had to follow her onto social media. And of course, you know, you can't have a Facebook page unless mommy has one too, and all of that stuff. So I found through LinkedIn other artist groups, and then Facebook page groups, and then I found Diane over there on the Color Pencil Artists League Facebook page, and I found out what other artists had been doing in color pencil. In all these years I had been working in a vacuum, saying, oh, nobody color pencils to make it look like paint, nobody does this, nobody does that. So I'd created my own style all this time, but now I knew some of the other tools. So my point is, I was doing all my blending without